It's kind of hard to describe, so.
Were you asleep or what?
So there's a friend of mine who a couple of you have met, like Paul and Gwen, just on Zoom. He lives in Myanmar. His name's David, and he and his children go to heaven all the time. And I've heard about this. Rob, Purple Nose, and Larry, and so whenever Larry introduces him, like when he comes on a Zoom call or something, he'll mention that because that's kind of unusual. You know, when I was introduced to tongues and healing and visions and prophecy, that was all new to me. But going to heaven, that's even like newer and more unusual. But he goes to heaven with his kids. He's adopted 26 street kids that he has in his home. He's absolutely amazing guy. But and he's always lit up and smiling. But when he starts talking about going to heaven, he lights up just so much more. He is. And this guy's name is David, and he's a native of Myanmar, and he lives there right now. So he doesn't have anything, no money. You know, he lives day to day with these 26 kids in his house.
26?
Yeah, he's got 26 street kids he's adopted.
All the kids are adopted.
Yeah,
Does he have a wife?
Yeah, yep. And his brother and his brother's wife help with the kids. So when he talks about going to heaven, though, he just lights up, just totally lights up. And I've had a number of conversations with him, and he's talked about going to heaven on a number of these Zoom calls. But when he goes to heaven, he just goes to heaven like a little child, a really little child. And you know, God's been teaching me about that for a little while now. He goes to, when he's going to heaven, it's just with that simplicity of a little child. It's just, he describes it as Philippians says, we are citizens of heaven. We're not citizens of here. We're citizens of heaven, so we already have a passport, so we can go there anytime we want. Our passport's Jesus. And so he goes to heaven all the time. It's like talking with God. It's like prayer. It's like, you know, it's just, because he's a little kid, and he talks about, he said, well, the word he uses is he goes to heaven as a baby, like a little baby. But that kind of simplicity. And he's probably my age, maybe my age.
Yeah.
So anyway, Gwen and I and him were the last people on a Zoom call, and Gwen asked him if he would take us to heaven with him. And he said, right now? Yeah. Of course, he got all excited. Because he invites other people to go to heaven. And this, every time he talks, I didn't know anything about going to heaven, except what he shared. I've heard a couple other people talk about it, not the way he talks about it. But he'll invite other people to go to heaven with him. So he and his kids, just like that day, had invited some unsaved people in the neighborhood to go to heaven with them, because he was thinking, hey, I'll just introduce him to my father. Because you know, if they met his father, then they would want to know him. But he lights up because when he goes to heaven, he's going to meet his father.
Yeah.
Literally. And so he lights up. He just totally lights up. But I had no clue what he was talking about, really. I had some like ideas or something, but I had, looking back on it now with what I've seen now, I had no clue what he was talking about. So Gwen had asked him if he'd take us, and he said, yeah. And that part, I saw some things that night which were pretty interesting, but I want to jump 2 days later because I had some more conversations with him, and I decided to go to heaven on my own. So that's the story I want to tell you, because at this time I asked God a bunch of questions when I was there, and he told me why things looked the way they did and some things like that, because I didn't understand what was going on. I'll try to describe, how do you describe this? I've shared it with a lot of people, but it's hard to
The Holy
describe.
Spirit.
The best you can.
Yeah, the best you can.
Yeah.
Well, most people that have gone to heaven have usually, I was telling Nate, I think there's more the kingdom coming or going to heaven visits. That's been in my life for like a few years now. But I think people back when I was researching all that kind of stuff, back then people would wait years to tell people because they didn't have words to explain it. Like Nate is searching for words to explain it and started explaining. But I think Nate like is bold in sharing this, so it increases other people's faith to be alert and aware of like everything the Bible says, to believe it's real, that it's true, and we are citizens.
Yeah. Because what this has taught me overall is it's changed my perspective on how I look at God. And I had already been making like those YouTube videos that I made most recently about climbing out of a father's lap and some things like that. He's already been teaching me stuff on this. But when he showed me this,
To get to a higher level.
it's not what I thought. There's more.
So how did it, before you describe what it was like, how did it change your perspective? On the way you saw your
You'll probably get that
Yeah.
as
Tell them the one that
I
you
tell
showed
the
with me
story.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because this is a good start.
You'll-
The first one.
You'll get it, and as
Yes.
I think of other details, I'll throw them in.
Okay.
Start from the beginning before you get to
Yeah.
quit beating around the bush.
So
You said,
Come on.
God had been teaching me about humbling myself and prostrating myself and coming before Him, and He had taught me a bunch of things about that in relation to prophecy. But He had just prompted me because I was wanting to go to heaven again. And this was right after that first time when Gwen and David and I had gone there. So I was wanting to go to heaven again, and he reminded me of that. And so I just started with that, with the same thing David had started with, just worshiping God and praising God and glorifying God and thanking Him for who He is, that He is a loving Father, that He loves me this much, and that He wants to give Himself to me, and He wants to show Himself to me, and He wants me to see Him. And just thanking Him and praising Him and worshiping Him. And there's three things that I use to describe what visiting heaven is like, and that's the first one of those three things. It's when you've been worshiping God and you've gone into His presence and you felt that you're in the presence as you're worshiping God, you're really in His presence. That's one aspect of it. I was really in His presence, and we know that where His presence is, that is heaven. So He's made His abode with us.
Yes.
This is His temple.
Yeah.
This is where He
That's
lives.
Yeah.
So, and where He is, that is heaven. So I was just worshiping God and asking Him to reveal Himself to me and show Himself to me because of who He is and how much He delights in me, and just worshiping Him and praising Him. And he reminded me of this prostrating myself that He'd been teaching me about earlier. And so this time, like the first time He'd been teaching me, or the first couple times He'd been teaching me about that, I got down on the ground. But this time, I was sitting in a chair at a table, and I just bent over and put my head between my knees like this. And so I just prostrated myself just that much. And as I did that, God was showing me what He had showed me the first time He had been teaching me that, which was He showed me a vision of Jesus standing right here with me. And it was just, Jesus, big smile on His face, being present with me. And I'm prostrating myself, and He's showing me how much He loves me. Because the way He was showing me Himself, Jesus, was as the Lamb slain in Revelation. Mm-hmm. And so His feet were all bloody and beat up, and His legs. And I wasn't even looking at the rest of Him. I was just looking at, His feet and His calf, just the lower, like so bruised and beat up and bloody, and the bottom of His feet were all ripped up when He was being dragged along, because He didn't have sandals when He was going to where He was going to be crucified. And He was just so beat up, and the scourge had ripped up the back of His calves, and it was so bloody. And when I went down like this, and I just put my arms around His legs, and when I put my arms around, I can remember putting my hand on his leg here, and he was wearing this white tunic, and when I pressed this, this coarse white cloth to his leg, the blood just came through it, like it just, so it was all red, and the blood just covered my hand, and I was looking at it, and my hand was just so incredibly clean.
Yeah.
So incredibly clean, like I never, that clean. I didn't know it was possible to be so clean.
Yeah.
And I was just seeing Jesus, and I was just grabbing onto him, and he was just showing, and this blood of the Lamb slain is the ultimate picture of his love.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. So I was just worshiping God and praising God and praying and just crying because of his love, which is so amazing, and then just asking him to show himself to me and to reveal himself to me just more and more. And then I don't know how I went there, but I went to I went from there. So that was a vision of Jesus coming to me, and that went on for a little while. But then from and I was fully awake and I knew where I was. I was sitting at a table, and but so it was an open vision. My eyes were open. I could see people around me, but I could also see Jesus here. But then from there, he took me to heaven, and he took me to his home, the same place that we visited with David. So, but it was not at all what I expected it to look like, because it was an ordinary house with an ordinary dining room and an ordinary bedroom with a bed that we could jump on because we're little kids and we're playing. But this aspect of visiting heaven, and when I was visiting heaven, so I was visiting my Father, the Father that had revealed himself to me when I climbed on his lap, with that vision that I shared. And if you haven't seen that, I can share that with you. My Abba Father who loves me, and I'm visiting him, and he has this dining room with this dining table, and he has, bedroom, but he just wanted me to, and he has the biggest smile. And when I met him, so I was going to him here, in this house, his house in heaven, and I can't remember where I was going, but he has the biggest smile on his face, and he's just welcoming me in, and he is so delighted that I, as his son, am coming to visit him. And I was going to him just as a baby, just a little child. And so he just wants me to relate to him and interact with him, just playing, just having fun, just me enjoying doing things with him in this house. So he pushed me on a swing, and he made me fly, like you might make a little kid fly around your living room or something. He made me fly, just playing. And I had never played with God before.
Well, I do that every day.
Yeah.
What do you look like?
I haven't, that I actually noted that. That actually really stood out to me. Because he looks like his son. Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father also.
Yeah.
So they look the same.
Like Father, like Son.
They look the same. I only saw that verse in connection with it after I saw him, and I thought, he looks like his son. And then I thought of that verse. Of course he does. The verse says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Same genes too.
Yeah, but he looks like Jesus.
Yeah.
He's not
He-
older. He's just like young.
He looks like he's a little older, but he looks the same. You can see he looks the same.
Ancient
But
of
what does
days.
he look like? Describe it. Did you see his
Um,
eyes? Did you see?
Yeah.
Does he have straight teeth? Does he have straight teeth?
Uh,
Say he smiles a lot. What
Yeah,
are his
yeah,
teeth like?
he smiles a lot. I'll just keep on sharing it with the details that stood out to me. Because one time I made the mistake of sharing it with someone and then trying to answer their question
Sure.
about something that he hadn't showed me specifically, and I got it wrong, and got it to show me that later. So I'll just share with you what God wants me to share.
Sure.
If I'm listening to him, which I am. So, the thing that stands out about what he looks like, though, is he is so delighted. He is so joyful, and he is so in love with me. Period. No strings attached. No, nothing to do with my performance. He is just in love with me. Because since this time, I've gone to heaven a number of times because I have a passport whose name is Jesus, and I'm a citizen. But even if I was sinning earlier, his love is so amazing. It's just raining all over him, and his arms are always wide open to receive me. And he's shown me some of these things before, but this is like, I cannot describe to you how amazing his smile is, or how amazing it is to feel him like hug me.
What did he do besides swing you around?
There were times when I'd say like, so what's next? Like I didn't know what was next.
As a kid.
But
What are you gonna
what's next? And sometimes he'd say, what do you want to do? And I go, what, I get to choose? I didn't know, I get to choose. and we do something. One time I said, I said, what should we do? And he said, hey, how about we pray in tongues? And he has like this, he's like so excited about it. He's like, how about we pray in tongues? He's like, and I go, yeah, that'd be awesome. And we prayed in tongues. It was the most amazing praying in tongues I have ever had in my life. I don't know what the Father was doing, but I know what I was getting. But he got the Holy Spirit too, so. But it really was the most amazing praying in tongues ever. And then, so there was this dinner table, and when Gwen and I were visiting with him, with David, David had mentioned that we can invite people to join us in the Spirit, I think.
Yeah.
Before I go there, I want to talk to you a little bit about what heaven looks like.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't at all what I expected. Because it was an ordinary house with an ordinary dining room table. It wasn't the glory from Revelation that I was expecting, and so I asked God about that. I said, why does it look like this? And why isn't it so glorious like in Revelation? And he just points at the back wall. And there's so many details that I wasn't even noticing any of these details. But when he points back here, it's like we were surrounded with clouds to make it like we were in this small room. But it was actually much bigger, because when he pointed at the back, the clouds separated, and I could see glory. I could see the glory and the majesty of heaven. And this is impossible to describe, but there's a few things I could show you that can I was in awe of what I saw. We were just in one room in heaven, and we were surrounded by these clouds, so I couldn't see all of the room. I could just see this little bit, just where we were, like the dining room table. That's all. And me and my Father, because that's all that we needed there. But when I asked this question, I needed to see more, so he showed me more. So he opens up these clouds, and I see and he opens up, and I see all the way to a wall. But there's these two golden pillars, like the golden pillars in Solomon's temple, like the two main ones at the front. These two massive golden pillars are like this, and then there's a wall behind them. But these pillars, these are stunning. I see them like here, like, and then like, so, but they are a long ways away from me. But when I say that they're these two massive, so perspective-wise, they look like this, right? There's these two pillars like this. But think of this as like a scene. So perspective, they are. I'm trying to describe to you how massive these pillars are. So I'll skip that because some of you might not know perspective on a scene. But imagine you're looking at the Rocky Mountains, right? And you can see a mountain like here. And then, all right, now imagine from behind the mountains, you can see these two golden pillars going up into the sky like this.
Wow.
That's how far away they were, and yet how massive they were. Rocky Mountains, pillar, somewhere behind the mountain. That's how far away it is in the sky, and yet it is so big that I can see it as a pillar like this. That's 100 miles wide? I don't know. It's massive. Phenomenally massive. Like, there's a pillar, and then some greater distance behind that, there's this wall. And the wall is... So, these pillars are... That's massive. I've never seen like that massive. This is just one room. These are just two pillars in one room, and I saw the wall. And so this wall is multicolor gemstones that are... I had no idea how big those gems are in the wall. But it's like there's light radiating from the gemstones, like red from the ruby gemstones, and blue from the sapphire, and green from the emerald gemstones. All this light is just coming through. It's like just radiating from the wall. So anyway, that wasn't the highlight of heaven. That was just God was showing me something, that I asked Him about. Like, what about the glory? So then I asked him, so why does it look so ordinary here where we are in your house, in this house, with an ordinary dining room table and an ordinary, bedroom, and an ordinary...
You say he had a bed?
So
Had a bed?
yeah, he had a bed.
I didn't know he was going to be sleeping in heaven.
Well, we didn't sleep on it. We jumped on it. But it was... So I asked him
I think it'd
why.
be fun to sleep in heaven.
What?
I think it'd be fun to sleep in heaven because, anyway, go on.
I asked him, why does it look this ordinary? And he says, because, this is the glorious thing. The reason he was showing me heaven like this, with an ordinary dining room table and just ordinary looking thing, is because he has come to make his abode with me where I am in my life, in my situation. As Jesus said, I and my Father come and make our abode with you. He's come to where I am with my situation and my life and my... So the glory, it's there. I was there, and like when I was talking about Abba's lap in the throne room with the sea of glass and the 24 elders, and there's glory. But he has come to me and made his abode with me, and it's with me all the time. It's where I'm living right now. This chair here, it's right here. It's this room. This table. We could have a meal here with God. This ordinary. This is an ordinary table. This is where he has come to me. And so that's more glorious than the other. So, one of the things that we did in heaven was, we were just having these conversations. So I'll talk about the meal next. So he asked me, so what do you want to eat? And I go, well, I get to choose what we're going to eat. And so I think, I don't know, but two things popped to my mind: crepes and lasagna. Her crepes and my mom's lasagna.
Were those better over there or mine? I don't know now.
But I can't answer that question because that wasn't one of the details that caught my eye, like I was sharing with you, because there were other things that were more glorious. So I'm going to choose what we're going to eat. So we have this meal, and so I think so. He reminds me I can invite people, and then I'm asking, how can I invite people here? I'm here in heaven with you, and you're here. How can we invite people from somewhere else to come and join us here for heaven? And he points over here, and there's these two angels standing over here that I hadn't noticed before, but they're standing here, they're waiting, and I see them, and they have the biggest smiles on their faces because they are just so delighted at how I am seeing my Father, at my joy, at, they know who God is, they know how good He is, and I'm seeing a little more of Him. They're seeing their God with one of His sons playing and smiling, and so of course they got the biggest smiles on their face. But they're just waiting to run with this message and go get whoever I want to invite to this meal, and they have the biggest smiles on their faces because this is just so good. And so apparently that's how it's done. There's angels just waiting. And we were talking about this Friday night, weren't we?
Well, you imagine when they're in the presence of God all the time, how happy they must be
Yeah.
continually.
Yeah.
Full of joy.
'Cause you
Yeah.
can't be
Over-
sad.
Yeah, the smiles they had on their faces were just amazing. They were just waiting. They're just itching. They're just ready to go. They're like ready to run, like literally. And so some names start come to my mind. So I think of my mom, and I want her to come, and I don't know how this is going to work or anything, because my mom's 1,000 miles away.
1,000 miles.
Yeah, that's nothing. But that's not even to the back
She's
wall.
She's just a blink away from him.
And then I thought of some other people, like someone we'd prayed for on that Zoom call with David, and somebody else that I met earlier that day who was having a bad day, and so I just thought of these other people, and so I invited them to join me, and actually one of the people in this room, and so I'm sitting down at this table with my father to have this meal, and it's just like an ordinary meal with lasagna and crepes, of course, but we're just talking, we're just having this conversation, but it's like this vision that I have in heaven with God. It's not like any other vision I've ever had, because other visions I've had have been like a video, right, of something that He's shown me, like the most recent YouTube video that I made of that vision. When I saw the cross and Jesus with the light that He was blasting me with, that vision. So I'm used to that, but this vision, this was first person happening now. I was seeing myself having this conversation with God at the table. I was seeing it happen in the present. This was a
now moment.
Yeah, a now vision, a currently happening vision of me seeing myself having a conversation with God. So every time I talked to God, and He would answer me because we were face to face. So of course, He'd answer me like immediately, not like sometime in the future. Sometimes when I pray to God, He answers me in the future. Not immediately. But here I'm talking with God face to face, so the answer is immediate. So now I've touched on the three things that this is the best I can describe it. It's worshiping God and being in His presence, and talking with Him face to face. Like sometimes you have a conversation with God and He gives you that answer immediately. You're talking with Him face to face, and it's that kind of prayer, seeing a vision of that happening to you, like right now. That's the best way I can describe what I was experiencing. And so...
Is it rain? Is that?
Yes, that is thunderstorm. I didn't know it was just raining.
Thunder?
Did anybody else?
Yeah, and I tried those.
That's awesome, Nate.
So, one of the other things we did... I'm telling you about this meal. We were having this meal at this table. And I see these people coming and joining me at the table, and they're sitting here, and I'm just total astonishment, like with my mouth hanging open, because I'm seeing these people at the table. They've come. These people I invited, each of the people. And I'm sitting at this little table, and then like my mom's sitting here, and there's an open seat here. But then one of the other people I invited sits down there, and oh, that's why that seat was open, because that was for that person. And then these other people are sitting here. Oh, that's why. And David, he was sitting here. And now David, he looks a little different. The same David who had introduced me to this. He looks a little different. He's just lounging back, and he's got the biggest smile on his face because he's been here before. But he's just so, he's at home. And Abba Father, he's just walking around talking with folks, biggest smile, just like, and but we're all just sitting here with these astonishment looks on our faces. And then I saw all of David's little kids all around us there at the table. And they just have the biggest smiles on their faces, and they're jumping up and down. They're so excited and so happy because, they had prayed for us on that call, but now we're all like, we're here in heaven. We're experiencing what they go to see all the time. We're here, we're experiencing it. We're all, and an interesting side note here, one of the people who I had invited was someone we had prayed for on the Zoom call, and I saw her with 3 little children with her, and I knew she had children, but I didn't know how many children. So after, a little bit after this, God told me, look, I showed you this, so you should ask her dad, who was the one who'd asked for prayer for her, how many children she has, because I gave you a word of knowledge to confirm, a confirmation for you. So you need to share it with him. It was her dad and mom, and when I did later, it turns out that she has 3 kids, but I didn't know that. So there were things like that, and I've never gotten a word of knowledge before. That was the first one, I think. So one of the other things. So I don't remember anything about like eating at the meal. It was more just these other things, the smiles, these people. That was
Did you say
like
you ate?
we might have eaten, but I can't remember because these other things were more
Like the smiles.
Bigger.
Right? You see Gwen most of the time?
So this time, I don't think Gwen was with me this time. Sorry, I didn't invite you.
Are you going to remember us next time?
Then there was
That's so funny.
one of my sisters. My oldest sister was there sitting next to my mom, and I hadn't even invited her. But of course, I want her here, so she's here. I was like, wow, like God must have invited her because he.
She was there.
Yeah, she was there.
Is she
So God invited some people I didn't invite.
She's still living, she and your
Yeah,
mom?
yeah.
So you got to visit with them. They live in
Yeah,
Connecticut?
yeah.
You got to visit with them in heaven.
Without flying.
So, this morning when I went to heaven, I saw my grandfather who had died last year. I was just reminded of that when he was.
I want you to take me next time.
Yeah.
We'll get to sign up.
Do we sign up?
But I feel like this is something that God wants me to do. Is He wants me to take people to heaven, because the way David describes it is you become a Christian. Of course, that makes you a citizen. You learn how to hear God's voice, and then you go to heaven. It's because he's just coming at it as a little child.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
And you know what I like? What
Become
you
a
say,
citizen.
the
Hear his
smiles,
voice.
and the smiles that are so important, because you keep emphasizing those smiles. And look what is happening right now with those masks.
Yeah.
You don't see people smile, and we're getting depressed because of that. My
Yeah,
PT president said that she went to the store. She's a very big woman, she kind of has my personality. And she said, I sat in the car after I left the store and I wept. because I like to interact with people. And she's a totally secular person, totally secular, wonderful person, but secular.
But I can tell
You know,
people are
it says
smiling.
sit
I
down
can
and
tell
shut
by their
up.
eyes.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I really smile when I'm in there with a
Yeah.
mask on, because they can tell by your eyes.
Yeah, they can. We have to try, but you know,
Yeah.
it's just deprived us of
It's not like
Yeah.
freedom
Kind of blocks the
Yeah.
that
smile.
God wants for
Yeah,
us.
and
Freedom.
this is how important. He's emphasizing it all the time. I'm loving it because I'm
Smile.
about smiling. Yeah. Sorry.
So one of the other things that we did in heaven is I
He's
was
definitely not wearing a mask.
asking, yeah, there were no masks.
No masks. Who got this thing?
There was,
The whole world. Yeah.
there was, I was sitting there talking with my father, and I said, so what should we do? And he just prompted me, well, you've got this work for one of your accounting clients, and yeah, I had my laptop with me, so I opened up my laptop, and my father was sitting here with me, and I started working on this project for one of my clients. Because I didn't have to leave heaven to go to work. Why would I want to do that? That doesn't make even any sense. Why would I want to leave? Why would I want to go somewhere else? That would be miserable compared to doing something in heaven with God. And so I'm just sitting there with God. Now I've accessed God's wisdom before for my work, but this was a little different because he was sitting beside me and I could see him and I could talk to him and I could ask him a question. And I can tell you, I got more work done on that project. But it was fun because God is fun. He wants to play with me.
Yeah.
Everything is easy.
That was what
It's all
I
about
did.
joy.
That was the revelation. That was the next level revelation for me. Is I did not know that God wants to just play with me. See, if God wants to play with me, that means the absolute best use of my time possible
Amen.
is for me to play with Him.
Amen.
But I did that.
True.
I mean, I'm not. I did that.
Yeah,
We dance and have a.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we danced that first time.
the other day, I told him I was manipulated.
Yeah.
Because I asked him,
Yeah.
I got real happy. We were dancing together all around the house. And I said, Lord, I'm manipulating you. And then I told
Yeah.
him what I wanted.
Yeah. But I was
Of
singing
course, you already knew it
there.
anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he gave it to me.
Amen.
That's just things like that. Like when I went to heaven, I was standing over here a little bit ago when we were singing. I had my hands up and God was just swinging me around and around. Swing a little kid, just swinging me around and around and around, just for fun.
Just
And I was looking up at my father, and he was looking down at me. And
So cool.
We were
Did
just-
you say that he took you to fly?
yeah, he flew me around, like he picked me up and
you
flew
pick up
me
a child
around.
and
Okay.
swing
Or
it
you
around.
know
You were
how-
always in his hands. You weren't
Yeah.
like independently flying.
No. But there was another thing that he had given me.
I believe we're gonna fly in heaven.
Yeah, you know how.
Yeah.
I think we all want to
You know how you would, with little kids, you get down on the floor like
Yeah.
this, and you put the kid on
Oh,
here.
I
and
did-
then
I
you,
did
like,
this a lot with my
take
son,
it on. Yeah, he did that with me. Just because he asked me what I wanted, and that came to mind. I haven't done that in I don't know how long, but that actually, because I really missed out on that because after I got so big, then my dad could do it with my younger siblings, but not with me. So I was really, I was disappointed because I was too big for it anymore. God did it for me,
Wow.
Oh, wow.
and God could fly me a lot higher than
Did you
Dad could.
Did you talk to your mother and sister later to see if they remember
I've
being there?
not talked to them about this
You
yet,
need to ask
but
them.
I will be.
Do you remember when you were in heaven with me the other day?
But I think the impression that I got about how they were coming to heaven is they were coming in the spirit. So it's like
Yeah.
praying in the spirit. You don't understand it. So they,
Well, you went in the spirit too.
yeah. So I went, but I was seeing it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they saw it
Like you did.
in their mind. I think they saw it in their spirit.
There is that tribe tunnel that, like Curran talks about, where he was with.
Because I think they were really there, but they were there in
Yeah.
the spirit. So they might not know it in their mind, but their spirit was uplifted.
Praise God.
But all the people I've listened to or
Which
read
is just
about that went to
mind-blowing.
heaven, they say it's like a telepathic, like you just think it, you're there. There's no communication really.
You know, I've
just
heard so many times.
Yeah, there were a number of things where I knew things like that,
Yeah.
where I knew.
You kept saying you talked to the Father and all, and I've heard so many people say when they went to heaven that you just think things and you
Yeah.
know what, nobody's,
I actually did talk with him.
So
Yeah,
it goes
I
like-
asked him questions and he
they don't
answered.
say anything, they
Yeah.
just think it, and the other person
so
knows what they're thinking.
I wasn't speaking here on earth with an
Yeah,
audible
no.
voice, but I was seeing myself having this conversation with the words, like talking, actual talking, and him
Yeah.
actually talking.
So now this is the second time, would you describe it the second
Yeah,
time?
yeah, that was my second time visiting
okay.
him. So yeah, it was just those are
How many
just-
times have you gone?
little.
Three.
I don't know, maybe. I don't know if I could count them.
You said you went today,
Three.
Yeah,
okay.
but I don't know if I went today once or if I went today multiple times because I don't know if I came back between visits or. Hopefully I don't. Right? Hopefully I just stay there.
Yeah.
But if I get focused on worldly things, I can
I'm
like
thinking all
come
the
back.
times
But then I can go
We
back.
don't know.
Because that's where my citizenship is. I have a passport. And his
right.
name is Jesus.
That's so good.
I'm thinking of all the people I know that wouldn't believe a
Here,
word.
you can have a
Yeah.
passport, you're
Yeah.
not going, you know, I have my
This,
passport,
you
my
mentioned
ticket, I'm not
vision.
going, right?
Were you actually
You
in
don't know
heaven,
yet?
or was this a vision?
They're gonna lift your hand.
So I was sitting on a chair on earth,
Because it says young.
and I could see, and my eyes were open, so I could see where I was sitting
Right.
with the buildings and the trees, and I could see that throughout. It was an open vision. So I was sitting here on earth,
Right.
and my eyes were open, and I could see all this, and I could see me in heaven
But
at the same time. But my body was here the whole
So
time.
I mean, this is like Paul, I mean, like John having a revelation. I mean, yeah, that's, I can totally.
Yeah.
Paul said, I don't know if
I'm
it's
from
in
the.
the
Yeah. Yeah, that is the verse that I thought I've been trying to describe it.
Right now-
Paul said he visited heaven, but he didn't know if it was in the spirit or in the body. Now I know that my body was still here because my eyes were open, and I could see that I was still here.
Can you tell me, have you read any revelation in this about so many people disregard all this?
From now,
They don't
you know,
believe
they're
it.
not giving you the money back,
In
absolutely.
fact, I don't
Oh,
know.
no, they can only be focused. There's no money back. No,
Discounted
you
all.
would be thinking.
Uh,
No, it's.
How long do you want to stay
Paul
up
came
I
back
don't
and
think it'll
he
be
said
6
God
weeks right now, it'll be
instructed
more
him
like 5
not to
weeks, but
talk
I'm
about
still
it.
praying.
Yeah.
And yet people today are all talking about it. So
Yeah.
what is the difference?
So for me,
Yeah.
I asked God who I should share it with and what parts.
Paul didn't
And
talk
one
about it.
time I shared something that God told me not to, and I got it
New
wrong.
restrictions now? Yeah.
Paul, said God told him not to talk about it when he came back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
And
talked
they
to
say,
God.
Well,
And,
If Paul didn't even
I'm
talk
praying
about
that
it,
those
why do you think
restrictions be
God's
lifted.
telling all these people?
The name.
but see, the reason Paul didn't talk about it is because God told him not to. So it's really simple. I hear God.